Welcome to Retrograde, the show where the hills shouldn't even be talking in the first place. This is episode number 47, and today we're going to be discussing Silent Hill 2. My name is Jack Marshall, joined today by Anthony Hellraiser Hobday.
Hello.
There's Anne Candyman Fisher.
Hello.
And James Loch Ness Monster McFadden.
Kidding.
Dude, at least you were the right gender.
Okay, how is Loch Ness Monster? Like, you guys got ones from TV shows or films. How is that? Okay, that's a real thing, first of all. And secondly, it's not scary. It makes no sense.
I'm scared of Loch Ness Monster. I'm scared of Loch Ness. It's a big body of water.
Are you kidding me?
It's huge.
You could drown in that.
swim?
You can get the
Did
world,
you not watch the Nessies when you were younger?
You can get like the world's population in it twice, I think.
If you can drown in an inch of water, you can definitely drown in the Loch Ness.
Yeah.
Jack could definitely drown in
I think I saw a
water.
Mythbusters on that.
What, the Loch Ness drowning?
What, drowning
Can you
in
drown in the Loch
water?
Ness? Yes, it turns out. Short episode.
But yeah, it's Horror Week on St. Patrick's Day. I thought I'd say that because we're doing a horror game. First ever horror game we've ever done. Right?
No.
Right?
No, we did Resident Evil before.
Yeah.
Well, it's real horror.
Does
week
Half-Life
this week.
count as horror? Is it sci-fi horror, maybe?
The experience of playing it is certainly.
Oh, System Shock 2 was a horror game. So this is like
So,
the third, this is like the third or fourth horror game we've done.
quite a few.
Good research there, Jack.
Thank you.
On our own show.
What we all been up to? What have we been doing? Lizanne, go on. Go on.
I have played and completed South Park Stick of Truth, and it was absolutely awesome.
Great.
Yes.
You got really good reviews.
It was the first RPG I've ever played.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no.
Well, you played Zelda kind
Well,
of.
yeah, then
Pokemon,
Anthony pointed
maybe.
out Zelda and Pokemon and stuff, but then I would
Zelda's an
call
adventure
them
game, not an RPG. Just wanna...
I would call them softer
more of an adventure
RPGs
RPG.
because they're not.
Softcore.
Yeah, whereas this goes closer to what I would deem an actual RPG. Like World of Warcraft is an actual RPG in my mind. I know it's an MMORPG, but
Well, of course, Stick of Truth is made by
Obsidian.
Obsidian, right?
Obsidian
And they're
that made
hardcore
Yeah.
RPG makers. So.
Yeah,
Fallout New
and
Vegas.
because the level of customization is awesome and extremely in keeping with South Park, and it is hilarious.
What's your
It's
character?
absolutely hilarious.
Does he keep calling your character douchebag? Or,
Yeah.
Or no matter what you pick as a name,
Yeah.
you're called douchebag.
Yeah, everyone just keeps calling you douchebag on New Kid.
Do I
It's
need
brilliant.
to bleep douchebag? That's
No.
alright,
No.
isn't it? That's alright, isn't it?
Less
fine.
bleeping,
Sorry,
more
kids.
swearing.
Sorry, kids.
But yeah, I saw one review that said it's just a 15-hour episode of South Park. So if you love South Park, this is the game for you.
Yeah.
And I do indeed adore South Park. And do you know what? It was the game for me. It was brilliant. Because we got a copy of the American release because that's the
it's
unedited,
uncensored, yeah.
the uncensored one. And so we were playing that. So I got to play all the naughty mini games that have been denied in the UK. And yeah, they were very graphic.
I wonder
yeah.
if the censored versions in the future be worth more money. I know it sounds silly.
Well, we've obtained the censored version, the official one, because we wanted them to have the money because it's such a good game. We bought it.
Isn't it published by Ubisoft?
I think so. Yeah.
They do not need the money, Lisanne. They do not.
No,
need-
but
they
I
need
want
every
to.
penny. Their
Thing is, I
children
want
need
to
food.
encourage them with actual sales because I want them to make another one because it was absolutely brilliant.
Just
Yeah.
in case the South Park
And
game
so-
doesn't sell well enough.
Yeah. Well, they've released loads of South Park games and they were
And to be
rubbish.
fair, Ubisoft aren't like an evil publisher.
Ubisoft
they
are
publish some
pretty
great
big.
games.
They've made a pretty big turnaround recently.
Yeah.
But it was more of a case of I wanted to do my bit to encourage the
Yeah,
sales.
well, I'm not.
because
yeah,
I
you should
want
definitely buy
another
games.
game.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy games. You should.
And yeah, it was brilliant. There was so many references to everything that happens in the episode. So if you've been a fan of the whole series, then there's just lots and lots of little Easter eggs that keep popping up that are just absolutely hilarious. And yeah, the whole game obviously it's very crude, but it is absolutely wonderful. And visually, it is an episode of South Park.
Yeah, it
I was very
you
impressed
can't
with how
tell.
they
It's
translated
stunning.
it to a 3D space. But it works
very
really
clever.
well.
Well, it's the same how they transform the TV show into a 3D space. So they've just drawn it with that perspective.
Yeah, it's just
still 2D.
to make it work in a game. I think would require a few tricks. It's just cool. To,
Yeah,
to
no,
see.
it's extremely well done. And I've nearly got all the Chin Pokemon in it.
I don't want to know.
The collectibles.
That's when Pokemon was a huge thing, like 10 years ago.
All right.
They did their own episode called the Chin Pokemon,
Oh, I never saw it.
which means
Oh.
penis monster.
So what word do I have to bleep there?
No, you can bleep. Yeah, anyway. But yeah, it's awesome, it's brilliant, and everyone should play it as long as you're over 18 because it really is really rude.
I have two things. First off, I'm excited to say for the long-time listeners of the show will know about this. Summer of Sonic's back again, guys. It's it's at Westminster this year. Should we try and get tickets again?
Yeah,
When?
let's go to Westminster.
For our people who are new to the show, you'll know that a couple of years ago we tried to get into the Summer of Sonic and got refused at the door. The Summer of Sonic convention for Sonic fans, and we walked in thinking we'd get straight in, and we didn't. They said get out.
Because none of us were dressed as Sonic.
I said we've
No,
got
it's
a
because
podcast
tickets sold out in 7
in
minutes.
like ridiculous.
That
amount
is one of the
time.
most exclusive events I've ever heard of. I don't understand how there's such a...
Well, I want to go just so I can get in. I know that sounds
If
ridiculous.
anything is exclusive,
When is
you want
it?
in.
It's in June, but tickets
When
are going
in
on.
June?
It's in
I
the
don't
winter.
know exactly, but it's
Because I'm
it's
probably going to be at
Westminster.
school.
Well, that's the thing. Well, I want to get tickets, but they're going to sell out again.
There's no chance.
So if anyone from the Summer of Sonic's listening, you know, we would be interested in come down and publicising your show. I want to go. I want to go.
To be honest, it doesn't sound like they need the publicity. since they set up-
They're selling out in 7 minutes.
we can't really offer them.
The second thing I've got is a little treat for you because I normally bring snacks, and I've got this over here because my housemates went to Australia and they came back
Better not be a spider.
and they brought me some kangaroo jerky.
Oh.
Look at that! Anyone want to try some kangaroo jerky? I thought I'd save it for the
Well,
podcast.
yeah, we probably shouldn't eat it on air because then we just won't be talking.
Oh, no, it's all right.
We'll take it in
We're in
turns.
my,
We're not
we're in my
animals.
So this
kitchen,
is-
so I can
Oh
definitely
wow!
get
It
us a
even
drink.
comes with a little bag.
So this
or
is actually
something.
like dried salted kangaroo.
Oh, that says "do not eat" on it. It says "a do not microwave" either. What is that?
A silica gel.
That'll be, probably be silica
Oh,
gel.
you know your food's great when it comes with silica gel. Anyone want a bit of beef jerky?
No, I'm good.
I
you
think you'll
guys-
find it's kangaroo jerky.
Kangaroo jerky. Oh, nearly ruined the effect. Yeah,
Some
kangaroo.
perfect squares as well.
Oh,
Great,
yeah,
yeah.
it's very kangaroo shaped.
It's
Kangaroos
springy.
do tend to-
Oh, that's jerky. It's meant to be.
Now it's going to get a lot.
It's like
Yeah.
a weird pepperami.
Are you not going to try any, James?
I don't
This
know.
lovely treat.
Have a
I
bite
brought
of
for
that.
you.
No, I'm good, honestly.
How about that?
I'm fine.
Do you not like the idea of eating a kangaroo?
To be honest, no, not really.
Why not?
Kangaroos are quite nice. I don't know. I wouldn't want to eat like an ostrich.
They're not nice animals.
I
They
wouldn't
are
want to eat
vicious.
a crocodile either. Or
And they're like-
Crocodile's nice.
They're like vermin out in Australia. They have to kill
it's
them at
nice.
night,
It
don't
tastes
they?
like chicken, just really rubbery.
Well, a chicken is mediocre, so rubbery chicken sounds terrible.
Well, yeah. It's alright.
Then why are you...
Chicken mediocre.
Am I right in saying that the kangaroos in Australia aren't they like? Haven't they got like a real problem with them? They have to go out hunting them at night and stuff because there's so many kangaroos.
No, they don't hunt them, they box them. You can only kill a kangaroo by boxing it.
But
one.
well, they
You
must.
know,
The thing is,
jerky,
they must
jerky
have a lot.
itself
Of,
I don't really like.
they must have a lot of them if we're eating them in jerky form.
Yeah.
That's how it works. I'm not going to eat a jerk like panda because that's horrible.
You're not going to jerk a panda?
No, I wouldn't joke. I
There's a
wount
guy whose job that actually is.
Yeah, I know.
They get
Yeah,
jerks, like,
if someone's
all day.
jerking pandas, I'd be quite annoyed because they're rare.
I would eat pandy jerker.
If it was
Panda
panda,
jerky.
if it was panda, I would
It's
eat it for
alright,
the
but
prestige.
do you know what? I would want
Prestige, that's a good way of putting it, yeah.
I would want some beef jerky next to this so I can taste the difference. Because that just tastes like really sweet, non-spicy pepperami.
And I imagine you don't get much meat off a kangaroo either.
What you on about? You get loads.
How
we
big's a
certain
kangaroo?
this is-
Up to my,
A fully,
up to my
a fully
shoulder?
grown kangaroo would probably be the same height as you.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they're massive. They're absolutely massive.
If anyone's from Australia listening, let us know if you've got a lot of kangaroos.
I can't believe
Let
you
us
guys
know if
just
you've got a
ate
kangaroo problem.
Yeah, I want
Got
to
some
know.
of them ripping around your backyard.
Anyway,
So, Anthony, what have you been up
What
to?
do they
while I-
taste like on the barbie?
Oh, okay, go on,
let's
James.
just not
No,
go over
James.
each other for
No,
the
go on,
entire
James.
episode.
Oh, I'm going to taste like kangaroo the whole episode.
Tell me, James.
Dark Souls 2 came out.
Oh, did you buy it?
Yeah, I did. It's astonishingly good. Slightly better than the first one, which is an amazing achievement. Really, really, really beautiful game. It's the thing that surprised me was that it's developed by the same company, but the main designer is now gone, and he's been replaced by two designers who work for the same company, but obviously they didn't work on any other Dark Souls game. So it was kind of a massive risk. Like, it could have been terrible. It could have totally destroyed the series, but it didn't. It's fantastic.
What's different?
Just a few of the systems have been slightly tweaked. When you died in Dark Souls, you were sort of hollow and you lost half your health immediately, whereas now you lose little increments, so you can keep dying and dying and dying before you get all the way down to half. It's little things here and there. Nothing.
Still as
properly
brutally
major.
hard as the first one.
Yeah, I'd say it's slightly harder actually. I'm getting really frustrated with some
God.
bits, but yeah, excellent game, really good.
Came out on the same day as
Titanfall,
yeah,
which I've also been
which is a
playing.
risk, isn't it?
But
to
I was
release.
waiting for Anthony to talk about.
I'm
I
surprised.
was going to talk about it. I didn't know you bought it.
I'm
Yeah, I
surprised
did, but I've
they
been playing
didn't.
Dark Souls.
I'm surprised they didn't either try and bring Dark Souls forward a bit or put it back a week because going up against Titanfall, that's a bit.
Dark Souls got
ballsy
better.
move.
Dark Souls got better reviews.
Yeah, but you're not gamers like when they walk in a shop.
they're totally different audiences.
I walked
They'll
into
buy both.
I walked into game and I saw Titanfall, and then Darkfall's like almost like they're in
Dark
competition.
Souls?
With Dark Souls, sorry. Like
They're not in
Darkfall.
competition though. Think about the audience for Titanfall. Like the general audience for Titanfall is like frat bros, sort of the general public, like people who aren't gamers.
But Anthony.
No, you know what I mean. Like, people who don't really play games. Dark Souls is one of the hardest, like most ridiculously complex, deep RPGs that you're only going to get if you're like into that sort of thing. So I don't really think they're going for the same.
Would you say it's too hardcore for me?
No, I think you could get into it quite easily.
But I want to like if I might go and buy a new game, I would buy either of those.
No, you wouldn't. You didn't. You played like 5 minutes of the first Dark Souls.
Yeah, it's true. I would have bought Titanfall because I'm a frat boy. Sucks up.
I'm getting the new Lego Movie game being delivered this week,
Jesus
so
Christ.
I'm really excited about that.
The Lego games.
It's how I roll.
The Lego games are consistently high quality. So
By the way, these little snacks that I have produced to get rid of the taste of kangaroo jerky, these are Mars bar Rice
I'm,
Krispie cake square thingies.
I was gonna
made
get-
with Mars bars instead of marshmallows.
I was going to
So
get the,
enjoy.
I was going to get the Lego video game, but I was a little bit nervous because I heard the story was really difficult, and I was worried I wouldn't be able to put the pieces together.
Was that a joke?
That's a good joke. Anthony, what were you going to say?
I've been playing Titanfall.
Hang on, wait. Didn't that come out the same day as Dark Souls 2?
With your homies, with your bros?
There's only one game that came out on the day Titanfall came out, and that's Titanfall.
Was it awesome?
I'm not
I
aware of any
saw
others.
your post about waiting for it to download.
Yeah, I probably did. But I was kind of in like I just blacked out,
Oh, okay.
just in a trance until Titanfall finished downloading.
Is it so good?
I think it's because I'm a big Battlefield player. I played Battlefield Bad Company 2 and Battlefield 3 a lot, so they were my go-to online shooters.
Right.
And they're a bit more reasoned. Like they're a bit slower, you know. Like it's still running around and gunning, and it's quick pace, but there's still like more strategy to them. Whereas
Yeah.
Titanfall is obviously faster paced, but it's still
You just call it Titan Souls.
No, I call it Titanfall.
Oh, I was confused because Jack earlier called Dark Souls Darkfall, so I'm getting lost.
No, I wouldn't make that kind of mistake. So it's still like people and vehicles, right? But it's a very unlike a tank that just sits there in Battlefield and does nothing until you get in it, and then like
Oh, I see what you mean, right? I
yeah,
see where
it's
you're
just
going with this.
inert, right? In Titanfall, your Titans have an AI and they follow you around, and so you feel this weird like emotional connection when you finally
Yeah.
run over to your Titan and get in it, and you start like, let's go, Titan.
Wait, what's a Titan in this game?
It's like a mech that you
Big
get
A
into.
robot.
Yeah,
Oh,
robot.
okay.
Climb into it.
Okay.
So it follows you around and like shoots at people and stuff when you're not in it. It's 'cause-
I see.
So it doesn't just sit there doing nothing.
Like a Pokemon.
When I
Maybe.
when I first saw the trailer and saw a Titan pick someone up and like shove him in his chest, I thought that was him killing the guy.
No, no.
And I thought that was how you killed him. And I was like, oh, that's
You are
terrible.
mine.
I know, I always like eating him. Going, nom, nom, nom. How vocal are people playing it out of interest? Are they talking quite a lot, or is it very quiet?
No, I feel like-
COD?
Nobody talks in games like that.
I don't
on
know, I
PC.
miss those days.
Yeah, only on the consoles because everyone has a headset. But on the PC, it's only really in like, the competitive scene that people
Yeah.
use their headset.
But I remember playing Team Fortress back in the day, and people would be chatting away,
Sometimes,
having a
yeah.
chit chat about
That's
stuff.
again, people who play Team Fortress aren't really the people who are going to play Titanfall or Call of Duty, though. It's sort of a different audience.
There are people who play it to relax and people who take it very seriously. And it's
Yeah.
the serious players who are going to talk.
Titanfall is. I get really confused when I'm playing it because there's so much. It's definitely a game for the ADHD generation. You know, it's constant, non-stop. Everything's happening, which is I think it certainly grabs my attention, but it feels a little light on content. It's basically just a few maps and a multiplayer game mode, and that's it. There's no single player campaign. The story isn't. It's just a radio play sort of over the multiplayer matches. I was surprised though because actually. I really hate vehicles. In Battlefield, I hate the vehicles, and I hate sort of feeling like I'm being somehow killed by someone who has a better chance than I do. So if I'm on foot in Battlefield and a tank kills me, I feel really irritated by it. But in Titanfall, because you've got the mobility when you're the pilot, and actually I think that's a lot more fun than being in the what?
She's laughing at me eating a jerky.
He's eating jerky with his
Sorry, that wasn't meant to
Mars
be rude.
chocolate thing.
Yeah.
And then he saw he did it. And then he looked up and to make sure no one was looking, I was watching and he just went,
I realised that sweet and beefed kangaroo jerky doesn't mix. No one's ever made that combination before. Carry on, though. So I didn't mean to
sorry,
interrupt.
James, sorry.
That's all
It
right,
was just the
that's
look
all
he
right,
gave me.
I forgive
I'm
you.
so sorry.
If you guys want to interrupt or just talk over me at any point, feel free.
Awesome.
Being a pilot's a lot more fun, but I like the fact that it's kind of two different games in one with the combat system. It's cool. It's interesting.
I think
Definitely.
that whole relationship needs to be explored more because it's deeper than its Call of Duty-esque gameplay suggests.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm most interested in the whole thing now that when your team loses, the team that lost had to run to the helicopter.
Yeah, that's a nice
What's
touch.
that called?
Yeah.
That thing?
Evacuation.
Yeah, and that's like, has that got annoying yet, or is it always
doesn't
a
make,
pleasure
doesn't make
to
any
do?
difference. It just you get some extra points if
pretty
you
much just-
evacuate.
yeah.
It's such a risky thing because obviously you'd think that people don't care by that point. They're like, let's just play another game.
No, because then you get more points.
It's
And
weird.
you level up more, and it's like
Yeah, it's a really nice little touch that I
reinforcement.
like quite a lot.
It's full
Yeah.
of those, I think.
What actually, I thought one of the ballsiest moves they made was the aimbot pistol, the multi-target aimbot pistol.
Right, but it has a lock on 3 times before you can shoot a pilot, so it's balanced well.
I don't think it's imbalanced. I just think it's interesting because it actually opens it up to really low-skill players to even do something like it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to be that good to compete, which I think is quite cool.
Crucial question: how much of an impact do you think it's going to have on Call of Duty?
It's number 1 in the UK right now.
But is it going to be
So-
the new Call of Duty?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
I was curious to know whether, because I'm not sure how it's doing. Like, to me, Titanfall just exists in this bubble, and I'm experiencing it, and I
Oh,
don't
it's-
know what it's...
Perfectly timed for the Xbox One
Yeah.
because it's almost a system seller almost.
And the fact that it's not on... They apparently increased sales of Xbox One by 96%.
96%, I think I saw.
But
yeah.
the fact that it's not on PS4 might actually hinder it in terms of Call of Duty, because
That's a good
PlayStation
point.
players
Yeah.
can still buy Call of Duty on PS4.
That's very true.
I'm curious to know if the expansions will come out the right times to, like, maybe the expansions will be released when the new Call of Duty...
They're doing the whole season
Maybe,
pass
yeah.
thing, aren't they? Right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
gets me in that argument though is the fact that Call of Duty is now 3 games in one, whereas Titanfall is one fairly small game for the same price. So in Call of Duty, you've got the campaign, you've got the zombie horde mode, and you've got the multiplayer. Whereas with
There's a
Titanfall-
campaign in Titanfall, isn't
No,
it?
there isn't. It's just multiplayer matches, but with audio, like
Yeah.
dialogue spoken over them, which is a bit rubbish.
Anyway, conclusion, great game.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. We got a competition.
Yeah, the Paul Monahan giveaway. And it's always nice to see people on Twitter talking about the Paul Monahan giveaway.
He's become a right celebrity now.
The tweet from the last guy that won that you shared with us, Anthony, the guy who was driving to work listening
Almost
to
crashed,
us,
yeah.
and he nearly crashed because he was that excited to hear his name that he'd won the game.
I laughed about, I can't remember what it was, but a while ago, when someone contacted Paul Monahan and went, "Are you the Paul Monahan from the Retrograde show?"
way, did that
He was like,
happen?
I am, yeah.
That's so cool.
He does work for Retro Asylum, so he's kind
Yeah,
of known
only
as
'cause we
well.
made him famous.
We made him
I'm
who
not
he is.
saying own you. I'm not saying that we're responsible for any of the success in Paul Monahan's life. I would never say that myself, but just consider it. Yeah, the Paul Monahan giveaway. For this episode, we are giving away copies of Fairs and Psychonauts on
That's right, you
Steam, which are both quite fun, kind of kooky platformers.
Both games where the dude wears a hat.
Yeah, that's also definitely true. And the winner of those 2 titles on Steam is Julian Hill, who I think has won
He's
before.
won before, yeah, the first
So,
time we've had another winner, I think.
I want to point out this is proof that if you've won before, you can win again. So don't stop
yeah.
applying just because you think we won't choose you or something.
And just because his surname is the same as the game we're playing today doesn't mean he won.
His surname
No.
is Silent Hill 2.
Yeah,
Damn.
His middle name
That's
could be, his
unfortunate.
middle name could be Silent.
it could be.
That's
And
what
he's
they
the
say because
second.
that's my middle name.
Julian Silent Hill.
Yeah.
Julian Highland Silent Hill the second. Anyway,
Well done to Julian Hill, yeah.
we don't want to make him uncomfortable. He's just listening to this like, okay, stop talking about that now.
How do they know my real name?
We're going to contact you
give
on
him my
Twitter
prizes.
and let you have the code for that. And for the next episode, we're giving away Little Inferno, which is a fun burn thing simulator.
2D boy? I think
Yeah. People did
World of Goo.
World of Goo, yeah, but it's
Similar
basically
aesthetic.
you basically burn things for fun, which is fun. But
Some people enjoy, you know.
Pyromaniacs.
Yeah.
But to balance that out with some deeper content, because burning things for fun isn't very deep,
Hey.
we're giving away Papo and Yo, which is
Awesome.
sort of like this adventure puzzler with some quite deep meaning behind the
I
story.
heard it was
so-
about alcoholism.
I think it's about like an abusive father, right? Is that?
I don't know.
You know,
Sounds pretty deep.
Yeah.
I
Whatever it
personally
is,
never
put it
played
on.
it. There's too many games to play.
I thought it was just like a storybook game. I gave it to my kid to play. No, I haven't got a kid.
But
Do
we're giving away-
you?
No,
Who was that little boy?
We're giving away those 2 titles. So if you want a chance to win them, we're going to put the details on Twitter. Just retweet that, and you'll be in it to win it.
At
for-
Retrograde Show.
Yes, on
on
Twitter.
word. And just
And we'll announce the winner in the next show.
Yeah, damn right. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about Silent Hill 2. But before we do, we're going to have a brief blurb on the game from our special guest voiceovers, Joe and Tom from the House of Horror podcast.
My name is Joe,
And my name is Tom.
and we make up the House of Horror podcast, reviewing new and old horror movies week to week, also discussing horror news, trailers, and much more over at thehouseofhorrorpodcast.com.
And we are here to introduce Silent Hill 2, which is one of my personal favorite horror video games. I remember playing it for the first time when I was about 11 years old and scared the living crap out of me. Silent Hill 2 is a survival horror video game published by Konami for the PlayStation 2 and developed by Team Silent, a production group with Konami Computer Entertainment Tokyo. The game was released in September 2001 as the second installment in the Silent Hill series. While set in the series' fictional American town, Silent Hill 2 is not a direct sequel to the first Silent Hill game. Instead, it centers on James Sunderland, who enters the town after receiving a letter written by his deceased wife, saying she is waiting for him in their special place in Silent Hill. Joined by Maria, who strongly resembles her, he searches for her and discovers the truth about her death.
Silent Hill 2 uses a third-person view and gameplay, placing a greater emphasis on finding items and solving riddles rather than combat. The atmosphere and aesthetics of the game means it also is regarded as one of the scariest games ever made. Silent Hill 2 is positively received by the audience and critics. Within a month of its release in North America, Japan, and Europe, over 1 million copies were sold. English-language critics praised the atmosphere, graphics, story, and monster designs of Silent Hill 2, but criticized the controls as difficult to use. In its year of release, Silent Hill 2 appeared on several critics' top lists due to its story and use of metaphors, psychological horror, and taboo topics.
Thanks for that, guys. And yeah, as I said, if you want to check out their show, head over to thehouseofhorrorpodcast.com. And yeah, big thanks for them for doing it as well. And I've subscribed to their show actually because it's a really cool show. They're very kind of when they talk about stuff, like, you just know these guys know they know their, I don't want to swear,
stuff.
They know their stuff about horror films to the point where I've already got a list of films now that they've said you should be listening to this, because when they talk, they're not, I'm going on about them now, but they're not like entertaining. That sounds horrible. They're not like entertaining.
Worst plug
This sounds
ever.
like a really good podcast.
Like, the two of them genuinely know their stuff about horror podcasts, and they're talking about it. You're just fascinated
About
by
horror
them.
podcasts or horror films?
About horror films.
Right, okay.
And they've recommended, well, one of them recommended a film called You're Next, which I'm really excited to listen to now.
To watch.
It's a terrible plug for the horror. Yeah.
I wish we knew enough about retro games for people to think that we knew
I
our
wish
stuff.
Jack knew more words so he could make proper sentences.
After listening to them and then listening to us, you think like, wow, those guys know their stuff and we don't know nothing. No, but no,
We
seriously.
do know us, do we know
of course we do, of course we do.
loads?
But no, thanks for those guys. And if you've got
I know like 5 things.
if you've got anything you want to promote, like a podcast, a show,
6.
or just want to talk about yourself, get in touch with us and you can be our guest voiceover for a couple more of our shows. And don't forget to give us a review on iTunes. Every reviewer gets a free badge. And also you can go to psycon.net, CSICON.net, to go onto our Patreon and sponsor us if you want some sponsor us. Yeah, nice. God, there's a lot to say in the middle of a show, blimey. Right, Silent Hill 2. Finally, the thing that people... I wonder if our listeners have learned yet to skip to like 20 minutes into the show just so they can about the actual game.
No, they just listen for banter and then
They
the
turn it
competition and then turn it off.
Right, Silent Hill 2, or Whispering Knoll, as I like to call it.
You do not call it that.
I've got loads of names for it, hold on. James, you chose
God.
it.
No, you chose it.
Oh, I did, yeah, no, because you were twisting my arm about it. Because originally, well, no, what happened was I was going to pick, which doesn't make much difference, I was going to pick Silent Hill 1, and James went, no.
Yeah, briefly developed a speech impediment that we recovered from.
He said, do Silent Hill 2, because it's a better game, you said.
Yeah.
And I went, am I going to not know the story? And you went, no, Silent Hill 2 is kind of a different story, it doesn't really matter, you don't need to know Silent Hill 1. So
This is factually correct so far.
I chose it, and I never played it before. I never played a Silent Hill game, and I loved it. But it's funny, I was saying earlier how I naturally assumed it was the first horror game we've done. And obviously you said, no, we've done Resident Evil, we've done System Shock 2. But weirdly, I would say is genuinely a horror game. I don't really put Resident Evil in as a horror game. I always put it as like almost, I want to say like a thriller, but
Resident
it's not.
Evil, I think the early Resi games used to be horror, but nowadays they're more action thriller.
This is one of the first games I've ever played and genuinely thought, this is a horror game. Like, were you guys scared playing it? No, not at all?
No, I was bored.
So it's very
But we can talk about that in more detail later.
It's very atmospheric. I actually, obviously the fog is there due to technical limitations. It's the draw distance that can't be had, but actually I think it adds a lot. Like always wondering what's just beyond the sight line. It's really cool.
I thought it's probably one of the best uses of a hardware limitation I've seen as, what's the word, improvised in game to be used as like a design mechanic or something.
Right, but for a game that values exploration, I think not being able to see anything beyond 5 meters in front of you is a real hindrance.
No, I
I can see what they're saying. It was a really good idea and it is used really well, and I liked that it prevented the need for load screens.
Yeah.
Apart from obviously when you're going in and out of buildings,
Yeah.
but otherwise it meant there were no loading screens, so you did have these really long bits to walk through. Whereas with other PlayStation games, it's always load screen, action, load screen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So it was really nice. It was a good mechanic to allow them to get around the need for load screens, so that you didn't lose that tension that they were trying to build.
It's funny you say that, though,
It
because
just got really boring.
to be honest, the first half hour, I didn't actually think it was a very good start to the game. The first half hour of the town, I didn't mind. I liked looking at the map, and I loved the way the map updated as you were going.
Yeah, that was nice.
But
That was good.
the moment I suddenly went, this is a great game, was when I got into the apartments, and it was pitch black, and I got a torch, and then there was those little things I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed clearing room by room. I really enjoyed that if I turned my torch off, I couldn't use the map anymore.
Yeah.
The guy was like, I need light to see it, so I had to turn the light on. And I loved, as you walk down the corridor the way the camera, you couldn't see which way you were going. You start hearing the static, and you're like, damn, it's going to be one of those weird things coming up in a second. Combat was a little bit annoying, I got to admit.
Oh yeah,
the
but
stick
it wouldn't be a
was
horror
like-
game if the combat wasn't irritating, right?
But no, when the moment I got indoors, weirdly, that's when I really started enjoying it.
You were mentioning the little touches, and there were so many little touches in this game that I really enjoyed. And I want to say, without sounding slightly racist, that they're almost the Japanese touch. Because things like, you look at the map, and if you come across a road that's conveniently fallen in, so you can't pass it, he draws a little squiggle on the map to show you.
To remind you can't go that way.
And I honestly think, like, for a Western game, they probably would have just not done that. Like, there's a lot of games in the past where you've had to basically draw your own map for that sort of thing, like adventure games like this. But they're like filling it in for you and putting a little helpful information in. But it feels more realistic because it's not just saying.
I'm pretty sure if that one mechanic of the map, like live updating, if that wasn't there, this game would be the most annoying game I've ever played.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like the way it crossed off doors, and I knew that I couldn't go through doors and stuff like that. That made such a big difference. I really enjoyed that.
On the other hand, what I'm talking about with the exploration is I prefer a game where I can look at my environment, since that's really the main feature of the game is the environment. Check where I should be going next, and then check the map to see where it'll take me. But in this case, you have to check the map at basically every step of the way and see which turning you should be taking, because you can't look down a crossroads.
Yeah, you got to
stand
keep
at
checking
crossroads,
which way to go.
and all you can see is the crossroads itself.
Yeah, but if you're playing a horror game and you've got amazing draw distances, and you look off a distance and you see like a monster from 100 foot away, that's not going to scare you.
Right, but they can
think
have it
the-
behind a dumpster or something.
I think the
It's not
feeling.
Oh yeah, one jumped out at me from under a car. It wasn't that scary because it didn't have arms, so it couldn't grab my ankle. It just kind of like came wriggling out. I just walked away from it. and I
The
was fine.
feeling of being constantly lost, I think, is a design decision.
Oh, definitely. I can
Yeah,
see why
yeah,
they did it. I'm just saying that I really enjoy games that value exploration. Well, I've said things that contradict this before, but I enjoy some games that value exploration.
Yeah.
And it seems like this game is definitely all about exploration, especially at the start. But they sort of hinder that in the fact that you have to rely on the map so much. So basically, you spend a lot of time when you're getting used to the town looking at just a 2D representation of it, which is not putting the best foot forward since it's great. There's great graphics in the game. I really enjoy how it looks, even though it was realistic enough that it didn't help the boredom factor. I was actually hunting out monsters on the street just so I could have some fun.
Well, I agree
Yeah,
that
I
when
was doing that as well,
Yeah,
just to
but
try and have
Anthony-
something to do.
When we briefly played the game together, and the first thing you did was you went into the graveyard where you meet one of the first non-player characters, and then you started just spinning around for like 5 minutes looking at the fog, seeing how that works.
Well, that
I
was
think-
because the fog in the HD remake we played at that time, because I played the original later. That was like they hadn't done it very well. I don't think at the fog in the
there
HD
was
remake.
there was quite a few criticisms of the fog, because like one of the reviews I read back in the day was how they thought how the transitions from cutscenes to gameplay was so seamless, but I noticed that the fog was like a bright grey in my game, and then the cutscenes were like bright white. So I was like, where the hell did they get? It wasn't seamless at all.
So I was only running around in circles because I was looking at the technical side of the fog,
Yeah.
not because of the actual game. Like I wanted to do it for funsies. But then I was hunting down monsters to kill them. But then I realised how annoying the combat was. In that you could you could set up to swing, press a swing button. At that time, the monsters slowly walked out of the range of your stick with a nail in it. So I mean, what's the point in? Like,
Well, I got to admit, the bit when the monsters were on the floor crawling around, and you're just having to hold down A to try and whack them, it did become a bit of a whack-a-mole game.
Yeah.
I don't know if I missed a bit of the combat there, but I was like, oh my god, donk, and it go and crawl off. I was going to ask a question about the fog though, because it was one of the most key elements of the game.
That's because it takes up half the screen.
Well, no, but it's what made me laugh. Do you think gamers now? Do you think they would like if modern day gamers played a game like that now, and if they did that in a game now, do you think people would let them get away with that?
I haven't played it, but didn't Amnesia: The Dark Descent do something similar? where your sight was severely limited.
Not like that. I can't think of another.
Oh, that was when you were scared. It would
when you went
change
insane.
how you
Yeah,
saw
it
things.
would, you start.
Right,
You had to
okay.
like crawl down and start
But
breathing.
I
That
see,
does.
right, okay.
That reminds me of a game that I might have mentioned on the show before, Left 4 Dead.
No.
Because I remember seeing this developer commentary that really interested me, since they have quite a limited draw distance in that. Not technically, but because seeing zombies come at you from really far away isn't as scary because you've got time to prepare. So they have a fog that's quite close, and they originally had black fog, which is what you see in real life. It was faded to darkness, and they realised that was way too scary. So they changed it to like a light grey fog, like in this game.
Yeah.
Even lighter than this game. Just so that it wasn't so oppressive, because it sort of let you see things sooner.
Well, Left 4 Dead's kind of a good example, because I remember when they didn't have iron sights looking down the gun, and people get angry about that. So you think, well, if that's what they're getting angry about, if you stuck a fog in that was 5 foot in front of you, people would be going nuts.
Oh yeah, this fog was quite far in the distance, so...
Totally different type of issue, though. Really.
I know, yeah, it's a bad comparison.
I mean, if that fog was in Left 4 Dead, the game would not work, because it's like a sheet of white mist. I don't think that issue would ever happen, because the technical limitations now aren't really present anymore. So I think on the PS3 or 360 or PS4 and Xbox One, you'd have the draw distance there.
But I've not played them. Did Silent Hill Homecoming, the most recent one, and do you know if they had fog?
I don't think they did.
I don't
but
think
I
they
haven't
do.
played it either.
Yeah, it is weird because you would know this better than me. Now that I play Silent Hill 2, I can see why it's so beloved by fans, and it's why they really want it. But hasn't it been dragged through the dirt a little bit, the franchise? Hasn't the quality of the games gone down generally quite a lot?
Not as much as the Resident Evil series, but yeah, definitely. 2 was a high point. 1 was alright, 2 was phenomenal, and
3?
then the rest. 3 was alright.
I can't even
as well.
remember how it goes. 'Cause
It's,
I know there's
a
I
young
know
girl.
Homecoming, I think, is the most recent. Or something like
I
that.
couldn't tell you. I know 3 was alright. I remember playing 3 and it got decent reviews. It was okay, but nowhere near as good as 2. And then the rest are just very forgettable. So yeah.
I don't mean to sound like I'm ragging on this game too much, because there are things I definitely liked about it, but one of the problems I had was that for a game that relies so much on cinematography, or it tries to be cinematic, I'll put it that way, like the cutscenes and everything, the voice acting was terrible. Having said that, it was such an early game that I'm not surprised it was terrible. I'm not saying they should have done much better.
In the voice,
Because
actors.
people didn't back then, especially for a Japanese, like purely Japanese company,
Yeah.
putting in English voices. Obviously, they're going to have limited options.
Yeah.
And we even mentioned this in the Resident Evil game podcast, which is a similar sort of game. The voices in that were terrible, and it relied a lot on speaking. But I guess that was more action, and this was more cinematic.
Yeah,
So,
but I think the voice acting in this is definitely a few steps above the Resident Evil voice acting.
oh no, for sure. It
Oh
is.
yeah, no, it is.
It's just the weird inflection and everything sort of drags me out of the entire scene, and the way he says one word slightly higher than the others just kind of put me off.
Yeah, a lot of the weirdness with the dialogue is intentional. Especially, I mean, the graveyard scene when you talk to Angela, the suicidal woman, basically the first person you meet, and it's like they're having two totally different conversations, and it's very stilted. It's intentional. So I think some of it is like, I mean, in Dark Souls 2, for example, there are lots of very strange pauses in people's sentences to make it atmospheric and weird, and just to give you an off vibe, which I think they're doing in this game as well.
I can definitely appreciate that, but for example, when he comes across the guy who's throwing up in the toilet,
Yeah.
and it's not so much the dialogue, but the fact that he's just talking to him like normal when the guy's throwing up in the toilet constantly.
That as well as intentional. It's there's kind of there are a few different theories about the story of the game, but basically they're both seeing different things. So the other guy's perception of Silent Hill isn't him throwing up in a toilet; it'll be him doing something really different.
It's kind of a spoiler alert, but I think the town needs to be a reflection of your psyche or something. The character who enters.
Yeah,
it.
the town changes to reflect the person who's visiting it. Right?
Can I very quickly just correct what I said earlier? So the franchise goes Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 1, then 2, 3, 4, The Room, then Origins, Homecoming, Shattered Memories, Downpour, and Book of Memories in order.
Damn.
So
That's
there's
a lot.
been 9 Silent Hill games. Just wanted to correct that before fans send me angry letters.
It's obviously got done well enough. There are enough people who want to play these games that they keep making them. It's just so far removed from what I've made clear so far that is what a game is to me, like the constant action. That it's
That's quite limiting, though. I mean, it locks off a lot of the better games. I mean, games like Shadow of the Colossus. Did you ever play that?
yeah, I really enjoyed it as well.
Because that's definitely not non-stop action. There's a lot of just riding around.
Well, that's a game where I really enjoy the exploration, but that's a perfect example actually of where having, say, fog would have been a terrible idea.
But is exploration action for you then, or like?
I guess I shouldn't have made such a broad-reaching statement, because there are obviously loads of games I've played, like Dear Esther, that aren't about action at all. There's no action whatsoever, and that's all exploration. But in those games, that's a perfect example because those have long draw distances and you're looking where you're going, and it's a game about discovering new places. And this game, I guess, is less about that in terms of a fantastical sense, but it's more in terms of...
It's more a character story than an exploration game, I would say.
I think it's probably hard to say why exactly one person doesn't like a game, one person does. But
Yeah.
it's just something about this game that just didn't interest me.
I think the main thing as to why that could be, coming at this from a storytelling perspective, like you were saying with the fog being an isolation technique kind of thing, constantly not knowing where you are, the conversations with people not quite making sense, everything's a bit off.
Yeah.
That's meant to isolate you and make you more scared.
Yeah.
It's a classic trope with horror is that the lead character is always isolated. They're in the dark, scary house on their own at night. There's no help around. It's the isolation is where the fear comes from, because at the end of the day, that's every human's mortal fear, is to be alone.
Mine is clowns.
Well, that too.
Alone with a clown.
But the thing is,
That'd be funny.
with every classic brilliant horror starts off with a hook. There is something interesting to capture your interest straight away. I'm going to quote something Neil always says here when I take him to see a sequel to a movie he hasn't seen the original, and he doesn't like the sequel. And he says the classic thing of, well, it should be a good enough film that I don't have to watch the first one. So I don't, because obviously I haven't played the first Silent Hill.
Yeah.
And so coming to this, I would have expected something to try and hook me in rather than just rely on the fact that I should have played the first game.
It's got nothing to do with the first game, though. They're different stories.
Well, then it needs something at the beginning to hook you in and make you want to do this. A letter from my dead wife that has come 3 years after she died.
There's intrigue. That's sort of why. What the hell is this?
Is it though? But then I spend half an hour running around trying to find something to do.
Okay, well, there are loads of hooks to begin
And that's
with. There's
really
the letter,
boring.
There's the mysterious letter from the wife who's meant to be dead. There's the crazy town that's inhabited with monsters and smoke and doesn't make sense. There's a woman that you talk to and you're kind of having different conversations with her. It's that I think it's
Yeah, but see, I found that alienating as opposed to creating fear because I was irritated.
I know what you mean in the terms of there was a part of me that wished at the start I could get in the car and just drive home.
Yeah,
Are you eating?
I wanted to
Yeah,
get
sorry.
it.
There was a part of me wanted to get in the car and just drive off.
Yeah, it annoyed me I couldn't get in a car.
And I'd love, even though that sounds silly, I'd love it if it did that and it went game over.
I think we're totally,
Brilliant.
totally spoiled nowadays, though. This
I
game
know.
it's like over a decade old.
Why would you-
I know, but the thing is, I can see exactly what they were trying to do. Like I said, I loved the idea of the fog mechanic and what they were trying to achieve with that in terms of atmosphere. That was really good and it was really strong, but it irritated me. I liked that it, the things you pointed out with the intrigue stuff at the very start is good, but from a storytelling perspective, it's not enough to hook someone new to the game or new to the genre into the story and make them want to play it after you're going to make me grind for half an hour to run around a town with nothing to do.
I disagree, though. I think it's a very strong hook. I think that I mean, what?
But it wasn't, because it didn't make me want to play it.
But was there any for Silent Hill 2? Was there any opening that was going to make you want to play it? Like it's a very. I agree with you that, I mean, this is actually quite a horror game thing. They are often really irritating to play.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think
Something you need some action to happen at
One
the
of the
start.
Silent
Sorry,
Hills,
Anthony.
one of the Silent Hills starts with you're a prisoner on a bus and on like the classic sort of prisoner bus, and it crashes in the middle of Silent Hill. So you get out of the bus and you're like, where am I?
But that's way less interesting because it's not. There's no intrigue there. There's just.
But I get where Lizanne's coming from because
Well, it's kind of
it
interesting.
kind of throws you in
but
the
you need
middle
some
of
kind
it.
of attack. Like ideally, you want them to be, you and someone else driving along together, and then you get attacked, and then the person you're with gets killed or whatever,
Like Children
and
of
then
the
it's
Corn.
like got to try and find out what's going on.
That's cheap scare
It's a
tactics. That's not
stereotype-
psychological at all. Stereotypes are there for a reason. Like a stereotypical opening isn't a strong opening because it's been done so many times to death.
Can I make a point that attempts to bridge your two worldviews?
No.
Because I think
Being a
I can-
bridge.
Okay, Obama.
I think
He's
I
climbing
can,
on the table between.
So I'm Russia, and he's the Ukraine.
No, I'm going to leave politics
you're
out
Russia.
of
I'm the USA. This is 1982.
it. Okay, you're going way over my head here.
I'm Australia eating kangaroo jerky.
But
Anthony is a bridge.
I think Lizanne is right in that the opening isn't very strong for me, and for her, obviously. I think you're right in that it does create intrigue. I think relying on intrigue for the very start of a game is appealing to a very certain market who will see the barest nugget of intrigue, and they'll think, yes, I want to follow that thread. And there are other markets who obviously don't play Silent Hill games like it, who see that and just think, why would I bother? Because the first thing I tried to do when I played with you guys was I tried to leave the town.
Yeah.
Since there was no reason for me to go into it, I was like, I know this place is scary as hell. Why the heck would I go left when I can go right? I'm at the city limits. I've won.
Just wait for the weather to clear up a bit.
The letter is from my provably dead wife. There's no reason to go into the town, guys. It's covered in fog.
That he has found the biggest plot hole of the game. We know his wife is dead.
So no, but my point is, the intrigue is so subtle that for some people that's going to drive them mad, and they'll want to find out what it means.
How is that's like getting a freaking telegram from a zombie. How is that subtle?
It's a prank.
No, but yeah,
it's not.
It's someone faking it because it's your dead wife.
No, it's not though. If you actually had played the game to its completion, you realise it's not. Because
I know it's all psychological and stuff, but to me, I like
to start
psychological and stuff.
No, but to start the game
obviously,
with,
they give you reasons. I'm just saying that for some people that small amount of intrigue is interesting and it draws them in, and for some people it just doesn't. It turns them off. So that's why I'm saying Lazan feels one way and you feel the other, because there's a market who likes that intrigue and wants to follow it. I mean, personally, I come from a game like Far Cry 3. I want to be able to see the top of the Silent Hill, climb to it, jump off, and then paraglide around Silent Hill while shooting like zombies with a gun. But they won't let you do that. I've got to try and find my provably dead wife.
I would play that game.
Well, I mean, I can understand what you're saying as well. I was James. I went to, where's my wife? I'm like, my wife's back. I might get a bit of nookie now. Come on, where is she? I don't care if it's zombie wife. I'll still get in there. But what I was going to say, no, but you touched on the storytelling, which I was quite interested because, and I reckon you guys are going to jump down my throat when I say this. Horror games in horror films are huge, almost on parallel with action films.
They're not.
Not really.
No.
But there are a lot of horror films. We can agree
they
on
make
that,
a lot.
right?
Yeah.
You give me,
They make lots, but
there are a lot more horror films.
They're not as successful.
There are a lot more horror films in the films industry than there are horror games in the games industry.
Horror
right?
has always been one of the smallest genres.
Really, even in films?
Yeah, always.
Oh, okay, maybe I'm
Compare
wrong.
the amount of horrors released per year compared to the amount of romantic comedies, the amount of action.
I guess so.
Unfortunately, there are definitely
girl
more
movies.
horror films released than horror games, which I think is what.
Oh yes,
yeah,
there are.
that's what I was going to. And it's funny because recently indie have been picking up a lot with things like Slender and Amnesia.
Yeah.
They've been picking up horror, and the weird thing is, people are playing them and really loving them, but yet. When I think of big budget horror film, there's a new one coming out called The Evil Within. I remember there was that one, Rise of Nightmares for Connect. I know there's like Saw, but generally horror film games aren't touched too much. And I was trying to think why.
Horror film games.
No, it's in horror games. Like
Right, okay.
games
It's just because
that
you
are-
said horror film games.
Sorry, I'm getting
talking about horror films.
I'm saying
horror
confused,
games.
but it made me start wondering, and I wonder if it's a storytelling thing that it's harder to make someone scared in a horror game when they're controlling their actions, whereas a
think
film.
No, it's
actually-
immersion. Immersion
But I mean-
is why they're scary.
But what I was going to say is,
that's why people
a
love them
film,
more.
you're watching someone else and you're going, no, don't go in there.
Well,
Oh,
that's
no, but it's a game.
They're saying that, Jack. It's because
Don't you go upstairs, wacko!
the horror films, I think, rely on really cheap sort of. Oh, there's a monster behind the bed. And it
Yes.
jumps out and has a scary face.
They do.
Whereas with games, like if you've got a gun, you'll kill them. It's kind of harder to make that shock tactic work for so many people, because if you've got the average person who goes to see like a horror film or whatever and they play a horror game, they're going to stop playing because it's too tense. I mean, I know there have been games that are too scary for me to play through, like Amnesia. I had to play in really small bursts because it's too tense. But a horror film, you pay the money to go and see it, and that's why
It is funny because there's a game came out recently, very recently. I wish I could remember the name of it now. Where you go into a mental hospital really recently, only like last month or so, and I wish I could remember the name of it now. It's very popular. But anyway, it doesn't really matter. But it is funny because people you do stop playing them, and I wonder if that's why they don't make as many
mean Outlast?
horror games. Yeah, that was Outlast. Yeah.
If
Like-
I'm in a tense situation in a game, I just stop playing because I
Like
don't want to.
the Last of Us is quite
start
scary.
spinning around to
The Last of Us is
fog.
quite scary, right?
The
Or there's
Last of
moments.
Us, yes, it was tense. I wouldn't say it's a horror game, though.
No, but this-
anyway.
I know that's what made me wonder, because the thing I found with Silent Hill 2, and I loved it, I've never played it before, it's the best game we've done on this show for me, where I've not played the game previously, if that makes sense, because I was new to the game. But I wondered that with the guy, I did find, and I know because the storyline reveals a bit more why, but it was funny how, I don't know, I wanted the guy to react how I was, which was basically, what the bloody hell's going on here?
Yeah.
And, he walks down the street and goes, what was that shadow? And, he just steps in and goes, oh, the shadow. But, I wanted him to be scared out of his mind. Like, I wanted to run back to the car. And it's the stuff that's quite interesting, and I wonder if that's why storytelling in horror games must be pretty damn hard to do right. because the moment you give the control back to the player, like Anthony, he just runs around a graveyard going, look at the fog.
Yeah, to start with, but then you manipulate the character to get them into those scary situations. And like I said, it's the immersion. It's you getting so involved with the storyline and the atmosphere and the music and the game. And it makes you really, really scared. It's like whenever I take the kids to go see The Woman in Black in London, the film was terrible. Never see the film; it is awful.
I didn't mind the film.
That's because you haven't seen the play.
But I would like to see the play because the play's meant to be.
The
play's meant to be terrifying, isn't it?
Yes, and so I tell the children this, and I always say to them, they're children, they're 14, 15, 16, and I always say to them, right now, this is a really scary play. They're like, oh, yeah, Whis, whatever. Plays aren't scary, films aren't scary, we're not going to be scared. At the interval, they're asking me if they can go home because they are terrified and they don't want to carry on watching it.
Wimps.
They are clinging onto each other, they scream, so the ushers have to come over and tell them to be quiet, and then on the coach on the way home, they're just sitting there petrified, and they're just, every little bump in the road on the way back, they get really, really scared.
How do you do things like... Are they jump scares?
lady?
There are jump scares, there's lots of tension building.
They come into the audience, didn't they, and stuff like that. Is that right?
Spoilers.
Oh, all right. Well, it's pretty obvious.
Yes. So I'm saying, no. It's good because I always make sure I book seats next to where they walk through because I know where they go through.
You like torturing your kids, don't you?
I love torturing them. No, they have to write about it for their exam, and it's really good if they've had an emotional connection.
Right.
And with teenagers, boys don't tend to emotionally connect with the romantic stuff that I could take them to see, and it's very hard to find stuff that is pitched at a level for teenagers to
Not me and you,
engage
Anthony.
with.
We connected all the time romantically growing up teenage. Any romantic film, we were on it, weren't we?
Yeah.
Play. So, so taking them to go and see horror, they get fully immersed in because they are there in the room with this happening around them, and they get absolutely terrified. So it's like with Silent Hill, it's this immersion idea. But I was too frustrated by the lack of story and mechanics to get immersed in it.
One thing this discussion has reminded me of, not this discussion about The Woman in Black, but the previous about manipulating the player, is one game I quite enjoyed the mechanics of was Fear, which is obviously a first-person shooter, but with horror aspects, which is quite rare because it's so fast-paced. Doing horror is quite hard. But one way they did it, and this was in the demo, I remember playing the demo for the first time, you click on like a ladder, and it has a climbing down animation.
Oh my god! Everyone knows that bit,
and it does it automatically. And that way, they can manipulate a jump scare where you turn around from the ladder automatically, and a thing jumps out at you.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't have happened if you were allowed to climb down it yourself at your own pace. But my friend, I played it with my friend. This was when it came out, so we were both like excited about it. I played it, and my friend was watching at the same time, and he didn't know I'd played it. So I came out to this ladder, and I didn't want to see the jump scare again. So he goes, now climb down that ladder. So I just jumped off the edge, and it didn't activate the jump scare at all. And he's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, obviously you can break it if you want to." And I thought that was quite a good way of manipulating it. But it lets you.
That reminds me that BioShock has a few scares like that scared the hell out of me.
Especially Infinite. That one.
Yeah. But one thing
Keeping it vague, guys.
Going back on the storytelling that I was going to say about one thing I have noticed in horror games. It's funny you say Fear because Fear didn't do it and BioShock didn't do it as well. Is that one of the easiest ways I find, and Silent Hill 2 did really well to obviously invoke fear when a player's playing, is to limit the kind of control of the player. Whereas we're used to running around with guns going things like Silent Hill where they limit your viewpoint, or when you're walking down a corridor the camera is clearly right in front of you, or you get the static coming in, you can't use the map until you turn the light on, things like that. That's all stuff that's it's very hard because you're limiting the player from doing things that will frustrate them. For example, I got quite annoyed when I picked up a knife off the suicidal Maria or whatever, and he was like, "I'm not going to use this as a weapon." I was like, "Why not? Use a bloody knife!" I was really annoyed. But it's funny because they have to do stuff like that, because obviously if they give you all control and they make you feel, which most games want you to do, is feel quite omnipotent, that you're not going to be scared. You're not going to feel that fear.
Well, I mean, narrative is control, right? That a story is told by controlling things. You're controlling the words that are being spoken, you're controlling the visuals on screen, you're controlling the sound. So the story is usually exponentially stronger when the person telling the story has more control. Unless it's a freeform game in which the player creates the story, and then you don't need to take
kind of hard to pull off there.
Yeah.
Dark Souls actually does the tension you're talking about really well, because I know I'm just basically circle jerking over Dark Souls this whole podcast, but
South Park actually does.
It's not a horror game, but it's very scary. It's one of the scariest games I've ever played, because in that game the souls you earn from killing monsters are both what you use to level up and the currency. And if you die, you lose them all, and then if you die on your way back to your body, you can't get them back and you're screwed. So it uses the difficulty there to actually reinforce how scary it is. Like, that's tense. You know that guy could set you back like an hour, and you really don't want that to happen. So that's a kind of a non-narrative horror aspect, which is interesting.
Scariest moment I've ever had in a game was really random. Was in Tomb Raider 2, where there's a bit where you're on a boat, so in a submarine, and it sinks, and you just fall out of it. And then you're underwater and there's sharks swimming around and you're literally in the middle of an ocean. You can't reach the top. And you're like...
I think that's Tomb Raider 3.
No, it's Tomb Raider 2. No, I can guarantee you. It's after the level. It's the level 40 Fathoms, I think it's called. I remember it so well because it terrified me. Suddenly you're in the ocean. I was like, wait, what? And it really scared me. But, yeah, we're kind of wrapping up now. Does anyone have anything else to say about Silent Hill 2?
I think we should just, like... I mean, at this point, the game is totally spoiled. So, I mean, stop listening if you don't want to not find stuff about it. I just think it'd be interesting to mention that basically the story is... Guy goes to the
There's
town.
6 endings. How can you tell me what the story is?
Guy goes to the town. He's like,
right.
where's my wife? Where's my wife? He meets all these weird...
Where's my wife?
It turns out his wife had been terminally ill. He killed his wife by smothering her.
He killed her?
Yeah, he killed
so
her.
like Memento.
No, but that's
spoilers.
To put her out of her misery.
One of the endings.
No, that's the story. The endings can vary. What
I
happens
thought one
afterwards.
was that Maria was your wife.
No,
Mary.
One is that
No,
Maria.
Maria's the other one.
One is that you take Maria away, and that's kind of like it's implied that Maria's ill when you do that. So it's like she'll be living out the same last few years that the wife did. So it kind of mirrors itself. Basically, he kills his wife, and Silent Hill is sort of the psychological reparations. Sort of he's paying penance for what he did.
Oh, so that's in his psyche.
Yeah, and like one of the best sort of points of that was the really not really sexy, but the sexually charged like nurses.
Yeah.
They're in like ridiculous stripper nurse outfits.
And the
that
pyramid
kind of-
heads that keep having sex with them.
Yeah, the nurses represent his like sexual frustration because he couldn't have sex with his wife when she was dying.
Is this definitely true, or is this
This is
what
definitely
some
true.
geek has
The
read
pyramid,
into it?
the pyramid
Definitely
heads were meant to be his like form of punishing himself.
Yeah,
wasn't
like
it?
there's a
Oh,
character.
okay.
There's a character you meet in Silent Hill called Maria who looks identical to your wife, and it's like
Yeah.
implied that she has similar memories and stuff. And Pyramid Head keeps coming along and killing her because Pyramid Head is you and Maria's your wife. And it's like, oh, I killed my wife.
Yeah.
So the story was actually really interesting and it was actually really deep, which I thought was cool. There was a lot to go back
How
to.
long is the game? How long did it take you from start to completion?
It must be quite a long game, 'cause to be honest, and
Takes you half an hour to run to the town.
I got out of the apartments to the park, and that took me about 5 hours.
Yeah,
to get through the
actually,
apartments.
it's fairly long. I can't remember how long it is
It's a
because I
long-
didn't complete it again.
because
this time.
you go to the park, then you go to the hospital, and it's a long game.
Yeah, it's decently long. It was from the time before Call of Duty ruined single player.
There's also an ending where it turns out it was a dog the whole time.
He's on the computer pressing all the buttons.
Literally,
That's
one
a
of-
really good
That's on
ending.
the joke endings if you complete it. But
So how do you activate the different endings?
I don't know. I didn't get that
I
far.
can't remember. Actually, I played it.
It
like, when it
depends.
came out.
Okay.
It depends on your actions through the game. I think like it's to do with whether you discovered a guy who was vomiting. Because there's one bit where there's so many spoilers now, but you kill him,
yeah.
and that's one of the endings. Because there's some rooms that you can avoid and things like that. So
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, some quick trivia on the game. It sold over 1 million copies in month of release, mostly in North America, which at the time for a
That's
PS2 game,
surprising.
that was very
Yeah, I
good.
would've thought Japan
Very
would have
good.
gone.
It also incorporates some references to real life events. For example, developers designed Maria and James with double personalities. This is the original idea for the game, anyway. Maria's other personality was Mary, which is a reference to the Mary Jane Kelly, the Jack the Ripper's last victim, while James was Joseph, a reference to one of Jack the Ripper's suspects. And there was a lot. I was surprised by how much actually they were kind of doing psychological references and things like that. The character of Eddie was originally named after Eddie Murphy because he was going to be designed to be a pleasantly optimistic personality in the middle of Silent Hill that you meet. Angela Orsoko was kind of one of the characters derived from Angela Bennett, who was a protagonist in the film The Net, and Laura was from the 1970 novel No Language But a Cry by Richard D'Ambrosio. Is that sound right? Ambrosio?
Don't know.
Budget for the game was $7 to $10 million compared to the first game, which was only $3 to $5 million. I thought it was interesting. And there was a few bits which I read and I thought, I wonder if that's true, but screw it, let's go for it. The gun is found in a shopping cart because the Japanese developers wanted to make a bit of fun of the fact that the American society, by allowing James to find a handgun in a shopping cart because they can buy guns and stuff like that.
Ah, okay.
And apparently even the layout of Silent Hill was based on a town called San Bruno in California.
Yeah. Isn't that one of the abandoned towns because of like the gas underneath it or something?
Yeah, they took like pictures and stuff like that. And there was there was loads. I mean, there was actually like what you were saying with all the like psychological stuff. It's surprising how much thought they went into even like little details about like the style of the map and the things you can find and where things are. And it's obviously in that room because it symbolises this.
Yeah, it's really symbolically dense. Like, there's a lot packed in there.
Yeah, it's weird for a game to be that symbolic.
I want to just touch on something we didn't mention much. The music, one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in a game. Really good.
Repetitive and dull.
If you'd actually play more than 5 minutes, you would realise that it's not
I did play more than 5 minutes. I spent an hour and a half playing that game.
So I played the HD trilogy. When I first turned it on, there was this really quite rocky.
Exactly. That throws you off balance immediately.
Odd. Yeah, that was a bit odd.
Like, why is this playing? It's not like weird mystical chanting or something. That's a really nice piece of music, and B, it fits really well because everything is off. Like the genre does not match there.
I did.
Also,
I think the sound effects personally for me were more like the use of sound effects was a lot better than the music in terms of things like heartbeats. And there was one bit where I would run the corner. There was a real horrible mechanical like noise, which was really quite scary.
Yeah, it uses sound really well.
I like the technique with the static with the radio to indicate there were things nearby, because that was good. Because the static on the radio thing, it's the isolation. It's the fact that you can't get signal.
Yeah, good point.
Isolates you again. It reminds you you're isolated because you can't get the signal.
I like the static is a really scary thing in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's used a lot.
Well, it's the classic, the two teenagers driving through the woods, the car breaks down, the radio goes static.
So another thing we need to talk about very quick. What do you think the riddles in the game and the puzzles? Because Resident Evil had that in there as well, and it's kind of
puzzles in games.
But Silent Hill 2 had quite a few of them.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy that part as much.
Oh, really? Well, see, I didn't mind the puzzles. I actually quite enjoyed them. The coin puzzle I really liked, apart from finding the coins, which was a bit stupid. But yeah, the coin puzzle, I was like, oh, when the older man has to sit next to the prisoner and all this. That was quite fun. I enjoyed it. But, yeah, that's all the trivia I have on the game. So we're going to go into the retrograde part of the show. I chose it. So...
Axe.
what can I go for? Actually, no, let's go for a horror film. No, let's go for a horror film. I want to say monster, but what's the word? Not protagonist, obviously, but...
antagonist?
Villain.
Antagonist, that'll do. That's a good one. Bigger word, Anthony wins. Yeah, so horror villain antagonist.
I've got one, Cthulhu. From, I don't know, there's got to be a film with Cthulhu in it, right? Because it's very... very influential, very wide-reaching and ambiguous, quite vague, quite symbolic. There's a lot that could be true or might not be true, and people have retold the story a few times, and it's all a bit muddled and crazy and weird. And he's one of the coolest villains because he's not just always up in your face with like fangs, you know. So yeah, Cthulhu's
good. Who wants to go next?
I'll go because I'm going to choose Dracula. Not because he's always up in your face with fangs, but because...
which he is, to be frank.
Well, no, like a lot of modern tellings of vampires are really like fast-paced and everything. But Dracula, like, it's a guy in a castle. Mm. It's all like it's written as a diary, right, or letters.
Yeah.
And it's more boring than it needs to be. Just get to it, like knock on his door, go say hello. So you know, it's not as fun as it could be. It's not as fun as some of the more modern retellings of Dracula.
Like Twilight.
Or vampires rather than Dracula. Yeah.
And he's a massive Twilight fan.
Twilight is my jam.
I have nothing. I can't think of anything.
Wait, I'm not going to leave that open. Twilight is not my jam.
He's holding a copy of Twilight.
It's your bread and butter.
Just licking the spine.
This is bread, butter, jam, and peanut butter as well.
I'm going to go for Michael Myers because it's on the surface. It doesn't seem as much going on. Just a plain mask.
The actor playing Austin Powers.
Wait, is his name?
I know he's Canadian.
No, it is
Michael Myers, isn't it?
It is Mike Myers. Yeah, they do have the same name.
Very kind of
from the Halloween movies.
He's just very kind of very solid, very slow moving, but absolutely terrifying in the expressionless way that. And even though you're going to go what, but Silent Hill 2's got that element of just being very slow, but very kind of like.
See the one with the hockey mask?
Yes.
Okay.
No. In Halloween, where you see Jamie
No. That's Jason.
Oh,
Michael Myers is one from Halloween with the white mask.
That's what I just said, with the white hockey mask.
He said hockey mask.
I'm thinking of the really big guy with the long hair.
Oh, okay. We were thinking of the same one. I just didn't realise.
For years, I thought that Mike Myers actually played that guy, and that they just got lazy naming the character.
There was recently unearthed somehow a video of people watching in like 1979 or something, the original screening of Halloween, and they were terrified. Mm-hmm. They are screaming their heads off. Just at like... Michael Myers would just sit up now go and go mental, and I was like, all right, calm down, lads. But,
I've got mine.
Myers, go on him.
Mine is going to be I haven't even watched one of these films all the way through, so I don't even know what the enemy is. Paranormal Activity.
Oh, isn't it?
You're gonna say 'cause nothing
Poltergeist.
happens.
Nothing happens, and it's trying too hard, and there's lots of pretend jump scares, and you just get really frustrated and annoyed because the main actors are really irritating, and so you can't get immersed in it, and you don't get scared because you're just sitting there hating on them so much you can't watch the film. You turn it off after half an hour. Boom. I give it a Paranormal Activity.
I think it's Poltergeist in that.
I don't know.
Well, there you
Some
go.
weird
That-
stuff. I thought it was a baby.
That
Oh,
was
I haven't seen it
Silent
yet.
Hill
Okay.
2. And do you want to, can I just quickly read out the other names I had for the thing? I had Hushed Mountain, I had Inaudible Mound, Tight-Lipped Knoll,
Tell me more about this inaudible mound.
and Tongue-Tied Elevation. That was my favourite one.
Did you just get a thesaurus out?
Yeah, I did.
2 of those 4 sound very sexual. Inaudible Mound. I actually want to... Can we hear a podcast about that entirely?
Tight-Lipped Knoll.
No,
What did
you won't
that
be able to
mean?
hear it because it's inaudible.
Tight-Lipped Knoll.
That's good.
Tongue-Tied Elevation. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
it's...
That actually does sound quite dirty. There you go. Yeah, thank you for listening. And you can find all information and all links regarding this podcast and all our other sister podcasts at psychon.net, where you can also go to become a patron and sponsor psychon.net so we can keep making amazing shows like this one. We're going to be back in 2 weeks where we'll be playing Super Frog.
Yeah.
Super frog.
And I say that because I like to think I'm pretty well educated on video games. I've never heard of this
Is this
game.
one where you're the little frog? You got to jump across the road through traffic, and it's an old DOS game.
that's
Frogger.
Frogger.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't a DOS game, that was...
And I did a quick...
I play something on DOS.
Yeah.
Obviously,
like that.
we'll talk about this like next week, but I did a tiny little bit of research, and this game is very popular, and I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's because
What was it on?
it's on the Atari originally, right?
It was Team 17 as well.
Yeah,
But-
so...
Oh, they did Worms.
Yeah.
It is on the Atari, isn't it? 'Cause
It's on a bunch of consoles. I'm going to be playing on the Atari
I mean, the
ST.
original release was the Atari ST, was it?
Maybe Commodore? I don't know.
Okay. Well, the reason I chose it is because I was talking to someone that I didn't realise was into games at all. Right? She didn't know much about them. I'm not making any,
Oh.
not making any gender references, assumptions. But I was talking to this person, and she said she didn't play many games, but she said, "Oh, for your next show, you should do Super Frog." And I'd never really come across it, so I was like, "Wait, how is a person who doesn't self-professed doesn't know much about games suggesting a game I've never heard of?" So I was like, "I've got to learn more about this game."
Does
So
she
I
listen to
figured-
the show?
I don't think so. No.
He's trying to bang you.
I was going to say, I would have married her. I would have been like, what's Super Frog?
Wait, so if someone knows
what?
the game you don't know, you marry them.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's why Jack's got 10 wives.
No, I was picking it because for someone who doesn't know much about games, to know just this one game that to us who knows a lot about games is very obscure.
Well, a lot.
Yeah, really interested me. So I was like, why is this such a standout game in that
collectively,
person's mind?
we know about 9 games, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
we are
9
well
or 10.
educated. Yeah, Dark Souls and
And I know 6 of them.
Titan
Dark
Souls.
Souls, Pastiche, you've got it all.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's on a lot of platforms, so play whichever one you want.
Yeah.
But, make sure you play Super Frog for our next episode. And that's thank you again for listening, and that's goodbye from me, Jack Marshall, a goodbye from Anthony Hobday,
Goodbye.
goodbye from Lizanne Fisher,
Bye.
and a goodbye from James McFadden.
I may be the only one who loves Silent Hill, but at least I didn't eat kangaroo jerky.